The mind is a master illusionist. It presents us with stories, some beautiful, many painful, that we take as truth. It wraps wounds in explanations and hides heartbreak beneath logic. It builds an entire identity around protection, striving, and control. And we believe it. We let it guide our lives, thinking it will lead us to peace, fulfillment, healing. But have you ever arrived? This isn't to say the mind is an enemy. It's not. It's a magnificent tool. But it was never designed to be the captain of the soul. We were never meant to live only from the head up. The real alchemy happens below the surface, in the quiet chambers of the heart where the mind dares not go. Most of us are chasing things we don't even believe we deserve. And worse, we don't even realize it. We're locked in patterns of achievement, perfectionism, or numbness, all to outrun a whisper within that says, "You're not whole." But what if that whisper isn't the truth? What if the very pain you've been trying to fix with your mind is pointing you to a deeper intelligence, a knowing that doesn't live in thoughts but in awareness? True healing doesn't happen when we understand something. It happens when we see something. When the light of awareness touches what we've been unwilling to feel, the illusion begins to crack. Like morning light piercing a dark room, it doesn't argue with the darkness. It simply reveals it for what it is. An absence of light, not a presence of power. Most of our suffering arises not from events, but from interpretations. Internal narratives we've accepted as reality. I'm not lovable. I have to earn my worth. No one sees the real me. These stories become emotional programs, repeated so many times they become the background noise of our lives. We don't question them. We become them. But a breakthrough often begins as a breakdown. When the old structures crumble, relationships, careers, identities, we're given a terrifying gift, the chance to wake up. It's rarely comfortable. But in those moments of rawness, the mask slips. The truth emerges not in words, but in sensations, awareness, presence. And from that place, something ancient and real begins to stir. Where in your life are you still chasing something you don't believe you're allowed to receive? The journey beyond the mind begins with humility. Not the self-deprecating kind, but the spiritual humility that whispers, "Maybe I don't know who I am." That willingness to unknow, to unlearn, to unravel the mental scaffolding creates space for a deeper truth to enter. And the deeper truth is this: you were never broken. You've simply been identified with the noise. The pain you feel is not a punishment, it's a portal. It's an invitation to come back to the part of you that's been abandoned. The felt sense, the deep awareness, the unfiltered now. This is where real change begins, not by fixing the mind, but by stepping beyond it. Healing the heart is not a process of intellectual understanding, but of sacred remembering, a returning. To what? To the place inside you that already knows how to feel, how to release, how to be in tune with the rhythm of life itself. Not the stories about life, but life as it is. This first step is not easy, but it is simple. To pause, to notice, to feel. Not to interpret or judge, but to witness. To allow the breath to slow. To let the body tell its truth. To become curious. What if I'm not who I think I am? What if I'm something more, something softer, something infinite? We've spent so long trying to become someone we've forgotten how to be. And it's here, in this pause, this moment of still presence, that the illusion begins to dissolve. What remains is not a new belief, but an opening. An inner crack in the armor where light can enter. And that light is the first glimmer of quantum awareness. The knowing that what's real can never be broken. And what breaks was never truly you. What if you are not in the universe, but of it? What if the entire field of creation is not around you, but within you? These aren't esoteric questions meant to confuse. They are keys, quietly turning in the lock of your conditioned perception, ready to open the door to a deeper understanding of who and what you really are. Quantum awareness isn't about particles or equations, it's about experience. It's the realization that what you observe, you influence. that what you believe, you project, that the observer is not separate from the observed. In the quantum world, everything is energy, and energy is influenced by consciousness. Your thoughts, your emotions, your intentions, they're not just passing clouds in the mind, they're frequencies. They affect the very field you live in, the reality you experience. When you shift your internal state, you shift what reality mirrors back to you. But this shift doesn't happen because you think differently. It happens because you see differently. There is a subtle but radical difference between looking at life through the lens of identity and looking from the place of awareness itself. Identity says, "This is happening to me." Awareness whispers, "This is arising within me." One is reactive, the other responsive. One contracts, the other expands. And in that expansion, we begin to experience what mystics and quantum physicists have both described in different terms: the interconnectedness of all things. Think about this. The same atoms that make up your body have been part of stars, oceans, and ancient trees. The same field of energy that holds galaxies together also pulses through your heartbeat. You are not separate from life. You are life, aware of itself. And when you truly grasp this, not just mentally but somatically, something shifts. The chase softens. The fear loosens. You begin to live from the inside out, no longer trying to control or acquire from a sense of lack, but to harmonize with what already is. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the energy shift without a word being spoken? That's not magic, it's resonance. Your field interacts with others, and that field is shaped by your emotional tone, your beliefs, your coherence. When you carry unprocessed pain or fear, it distorts your resonance, not as a judgment but as a signal. Your life begins to reflect what you haven't yet seen. This is where quantum awareness becomes medicine for the heart. It shows us that reality is participatory, not fixed, not distant, but responsive, alive, listening. So the question becomes, what are you broadcasting? If your inner signal is one of self-doubt, the universe echoes back opportunities to doubt. If your signal is guilt, life reflects situations that perpetuate that guilt. Not as punishment, but as a mirror, to awaken you, to invite you to update your signal, not through effort, but through awareness. Real-life stories abound. A woman burdened by years of abandonment begins to realize that every relationship she enters echoes her father's absence. Through therapy, yes, but more powerfully, through deep meditation, she sees not just the memory, but the emotion that shaped her identity. I am not worth staying for. And in the seeing, not analyzing, that belief begins to dissolve. Her energy shifts. She stops chasing emotionally unavailable people. She becomes available to herself. And soon, so does the world. Another man, locked in cycles of failure, begins to trace his narrative back to childhood, where he learned that success means betrayal of his roots. With this awareness, he no longer sabotages opportunities. He reclaims success as safe. His life changes, not because he did more, but because he became more coherent inside. These aren't miracles. They're quantum mechanics in motion. When the observer sees clearly, the pattern changes. So ask yourself, where are you still looking at life through the old eyes of hurt? What story are you unconsciously animating through your emotional tone? To see yourself as the field, not just a figure within it, is the most liberating awareness you can access. It's not a spiritual bypass or a denial of pain. It's the context that holds the pain differently. Instead of being lost in the story, you become the space in which the story plays out. And in that space, the story no longer controls you. Healing begins not with fixing, but with witnessing. You are not the waves of thought, emotion, or history. You are the ocean of awareness beneath it. When you return to that knowing, you don't need to chase healing. You become the healer, not for others, for yourself. The heart does not heal through effort, it heals through remembrance of its own wholeness, its place in the quantum web of being. There is a secret language the body speaks fluently, long before the mind can name a single word. It's the language of energy, of sensations, of movement, of emotions as energy in motion. But most of us were never taught how to listen. We were taught to suppress, to analyze, to explain. Be strong, move on, don't let them see you cry. In silencing the emotion, we silenced the energy. And in doing so, we interrupted the natural process of healing. Emotion is not a flaw. It is feedback. It's your soul's way of saying, something wants to move, something wants to be known, something within you is ready to be released. But when we resist feeling, we freeze the flow. That energy doesn't disappear. It gets stored in the tissues, the nervous system, the subconscious field. It becomes the quiet undercurrent that shapes our choices, our relationships, our reality. Have you ever reacted in a way that surprised even you? That moment of disproportionate anger, inexplicable fear, or shutdown in the face of love. That's stored energy. Not because you're broken, but because you're full. Full of unprocessed experience, of inherited patterns, of ancient echoes still vibrating through your being. And yet there is hope in this awareness, because what has been stored can be seen. And what is seen can be felt. And what is felt can finally move. Not through force, but through presence. The heart, unlike the mind, does not speak in concepts. It speaks in rhythms. It doesn't ask you to understand, it asks you to be with. And in that being with, something miraculous begins to occur: coherence. Coherence is a state where your mind, heart, and body align, not in thought, but in frequency. It's when your inner world stops fighting itself and starts flowing together. In that state, the body heals faster, the nervous system calms, the immune system strengthens. But more importantly, you begin to feel like yourself again, not the conditioned self, but the essential one. There is no bypassing this process. You cannot think your way out of a feeling. You cannot visualize over a suppressed emotion. You have to go through, and the only way through is with compassion. This is where so many people get stuck on the path of manifestation. They try to think positively while still carrying grief. They make vision boards while their inner child still believes love must be earned. They speak affirmations their nervous system doesn't believe, and then they wonder why nothing changes. Because manifestation isn't just about thoughts. It's about embodiment. And you cannot embody what you haven't emotionally integrated. So what does it mean to integrate? It means allowing the energy of the past to complete its cycle. It means creating space through breath, movement, stillness, tears, for the body to do what it knows how to do: release. We don't need to fix emotions. We need to feel them safely, fully, lovingly. In quantum terms, every emotion is a frequency. Shame is dense and low. Joy is light and expansive. When you carry unresolved emotion, your personal field vibrates at that level, not as a punishment, but as a signal. Your external life begins to attract matches to your internal tone. The world is not against you, it's in resonance with you. So if you want your reality to change, your frequency must change. And frequency doesn't shift through force, it shifts through truth. What emotion are you still afraid to feel? Behind that fear is a younger version of you, still holding on, still waiting for someone to sit with them, not to explain, but to stay, to witness, to breathe. That someone is you. This is not about wallowing in pain, it's about liberating energy. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that got frozen in time. It's about remembering that healing isn't linear, it's cyclical. It moves like a spiral, bringing you back to old wounds with new wisdom, again and again, until the charge dissolves. And when it does, when the energy moves, when the tears fall, when the breath returns, something opens, a spaciousness, a clarity, a lightness. You realize you were never the wound. You were the awareness witnessing the wound. And in that awareness you find power, not control, but alignment, not escape, but presence. This is the heart's way. Not to avoid, but to embrace. Not to fix, but to feel. Not to transcend, but to transform. Through awareness, through energy, through love. Healing is not about efforting. It's about attuning. We live in a world obsessed with doing, fixing, forcing, achieving, but the heart operates on different principles. It doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to resonance. And in the quantum view, resonance is everything. What you feel within, you tune into without. This is not just poetry, it's physics. In a field of infinite potential, the frequencies you embody determine which possibilities collapse into form. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are coherent with. This is why affirmations fall flat when they're not emotionally anchored. Why vision boards stay pinned to walls but never materialize in life. The mind can say one thing, but if the body, if your field is holding a different frequency, the universe responds to the latter. So how do you shift your frequency? Not through force, but through presence. When you drop from the mind into the heart, when you allow yourself to feel the breath, the pulse, the softness of being, your frequency changes. When you forgive, not conceptually but energetically, your field clears. When you speak to yourself with kindness instead of criticism, you raise your vibration, not by pretending to be someone else, but by remembering who you already are beneath the noise. There's a beautiful paradox here. The more you try to change your energy to get something, the less it changes, because the trying is rooted in lack. But the moment you begin to connect with yourself, not to get, but to give presence, transformation begins. This is healing by frequency, not force. Imagine a tuning fork. Strike it and it vibrates at a particular pitch. Place another fork near it, and that second fork begins to vibrate too. Not because you touched it, but because of resonance. Your energy works the same way. When you vibrate in coherence, when your thoughts, emotions, and body are aligned, you become a tuning fork for life itself. People feel it. Situations align. Doors open. Not because you chased them down, but because you tuned in to their frequency. This is not magical thinking. It's energetic reality. Consider heart-brain coherence. Studies from the HeartMath Institute have shown that when we breathe slowly and focus on feelings of appreciation, our heart rhythms become smooth and harmonious. This rhythm affects brainwaves, nervous system activity, even the electromagnetic field around the body. We enter a state of balance, what the ancients called harmony, and science now calls coherence. In that state, we don't just feel better, we broadcast better, and the field responds. It's in this space that true forgiveness happens, not as a mental choice, but as an energetic shift. You stop carrying the old wound, not because you decided to let it go, but because it no longer matches who you are becoming. Can you feel the difference? This is why practices like meditation, breath work, sound healing, and conscious movement are so powerful. They're not spiritual hobbies, they are tools of frequency refinement. They help you tune your field to the truth beneath the noise. And from that truth, life changes. Not because you begged the universe, but because you became a clear enough signal to receive what was already waiting. You've likely heard the phrase, "You are the creator of your reality." But it's often misunderstood. You don't create with your mind alone. You create through the totality of your being, your beliefs, your emotions, your energy, and the universe responds not to what you say, but to what you are. So ask yourself, what are you energetically embodying right now? If you were to strip away the effort, the story, the old wounds, what would remain? Can you connect with that part of you that already feels peaceful? Even for a moment? That's the signal, that's the field. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. Every time you choose compassion over control, you shift. Every time you breathe into discomfort instead of numbing it, you tune. Every time you speak to yourself as someone worthy of love, not when but now, you change your vibration. And when your vibration changes, the world cannot help but respond. This is not instant gratification. It's inner evolution. It's the slow, sacred work of becoming the frequency of what you've always desired. Because in the end, the universe is not granting wishes, it's matching signals. There comes a moment in the journey, Not always loud, not always dramatic. When you realize you are no longer reaching, you are receiving, not out of effort or desperation, but from a quiet certainty that who you are is already enough. This is the shift from seeking reality to becoming the field. Becoming the field means dropping the identity of the seeker and embracing the truth of the source. It's no longer about chasing love, safety, abundance. It's about embodying them. And in doing so, realizing that the chase was always an echo of separation, not a call from the soul. You were never meant to live in longing. Longing is the language of forgetting. Wholeness, on the other hand, speaks in presence, and presence is the language of creation. When you operate from presence, you're no longer reacting to life. You're radiating into it. You're no longer measuring worth by what comes to you. You're aligned with what flows from you. In this state, manifestations arise not as proof of power, but as expressions of resonance. They don't define your worth. They reflect your coherence. Imagine yourself not as a person trying to control circumstances, but as a field of intelligent energy interacting with a greater field of intelligence. When you soften, life softens. When you trust, opportunities emerge. When you love, not from need, but from abundance, you become magnetic. This isn't about getting what you want. It's about remembering that what you want is already part of your field when you become its match. The key is identity. Who are you being? Are you still being the version of yourself built around survival? Or have you begun to step into the self born of awareness, the self who knows it was never lacking, only asleep? The quantum self does not need to fix the world. It vibrates at a frequency that changes the world. Not by pushing, but by presence. You've seen this before. Maybe in someone whose peace made you breathe deeper, whose joy felt contagious, whose stillness steadied your storm. That's not charisma. That's coherence. That's someone who has become the field. You can become that too. But you must be willing to let go of the identity that got love through pleasing, that found worth through performance, that chased safety through control, that avoided pain through overthinking. That identity served you. Honor it, then release it. The field is calling you back to something deeper. Ask yourself, if I already am what I've been seeking, how would I show up today? What would I allow myself to feel, to express, to trust? This is not a mental trick. It's a frequency recalibration. When you act from that identity, not fake it but feel it, you change the field around you. Life bends, it has no choice. Because the field is responsive. It does not discriminate between worthiness and unworthiness. It simply matches energy. So drop the striving, drop the trying, begin to be. Let your breath remind you that you're alive. Let your heartbeat guide you back to rhythm. Let your awareness return to the body, not to fix it, but to feel it. To feel yourself as the field, as consciousness itself, expressing moment by moment through form. This is how we heal the heart, not by making it perfect, but by reconnecting it to its place in the web of being. Not as a broken piece, but as a pulsing center of intelligence. When the heart is coherent, the field is clear. When the field is clear, manifestation is natural. Let the old identities fall away like leaves. Let the silence speak. Let the tears cleanse. Let joy rise not as a goal, but as your nature. Because you are not here to chase a life. You are here to radiate one. And the moment you truly accept that, without pretense, without performance, the field responds. Not someday. Now. You are not a mistake to be fixed. You are a frequency to be tuned. When you stop living from the noise of the mind and begin to listen to the subtle intelligence of your heart, you'll find what you've been looking for was never outside you. It was waiting in the stillness, beneath the patterns, within the awareness. Healing isn't a destination, it's a return to coherence, to presence, to self. This journey is yours to walk, but you are never walking alone. Each breath is an invitation. Each emotion is a message. Each moment is a portal. What reality will you step into next? If this message resonated, take a moment to reflect. Where are you still holding on to an identity that no longer matches who you are becoming? What part of you is ready to be seen, felt, loved into wholeness? Let's keep this conversation alive. Share your thoughts, your journey, your insights in the comments. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing so we can continue exploring the vastness of your inner world together. Because beyond the mind, your truest self is waiting. And the field is already listening.